Hey guys, it's your best boxing friends. I'm Kelsey. This is Rachel.
So we had just the other day, sadly, another death in the sport of boxing. Patrick Day died after sustaining injuries in a fight over the weekend.
Mhm.
And yeah, sad news, tragic. I'm sure he has people that love him, and it's really, really traumatic and hard for them.
Yeah, our hearts go out to those people and are with those people during this trying time. What a devastating thing. Anytime anybody dies, and especially like this, it's devastating. And so our thoughts and prayers are with those people for sure.
And when I heard the news, I was saddened by it initially because of thinking about his friends and family and the loss of life. And then I had concern, and I had said to you that, I know as a boxing fan, boxing lacks some oversight because we have all these different, people involved, but not a central organization that manages the sport. And I wonder if that lack of oversight um, it makes the sport more dangerous than what it has to be. Now, I don't know why exactly Patrick Day died, nor do I know the other three boxing deaths that we've had in 2019. I guess what I'm saying is I don't know all the medical data behind those. Could more oversight have prevented those? Like, I don't know. Um, I guess what I'm saying is that, like, we have sports where people maybe sometimes shouldn't be medically cleared to be in a ring, and yet they are, or they're coming off a concussion and sparring or different things. And I'm concerned about those types of things that might get overlooked due to our lack of oversight.
Yeah, I don't have any answers for you, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any idea. I know that boxing is inherently a dangerous sport. There's other sports that are inherently dangerous as well. Um,
And
football,
jobs.
football is dangerous. Mixed martial arts is dangerous. I know that boxing has a particular problem in that people are more likely to suffer a kind of brain trauma that ends in death pretty soon. Now, in the NFL, the kind of brain injuries that they have received mostly have led to things that happen to those people later in life. I think you'll see something similarly in mixed martial arts. Um, that the issues that these people will have are going to happen later down the line. So I'm not sure if they're, as far as like what you can do. Yeah, it would be great to have more oversight in boxing, but I don't know how that can exist in boxing in its present form. People have had ideas before about how to make boxing safer. That's actually why they don't have 15-round fights anymore. Another thing that they did is they changed weigh-ins from the day before. I mean, sorry, to the same day to the day before. But there's even some discussion now that maybe that's not good. Maybe it should be the day. I don't know if you can ever really make boxing safe. One interesting idea to me, which wouldn't change, would change boxing, but would not change it as much as I think some other things, is using smaller gloves. They use the 8 and 10 ounce gloves in boxing. Um, there's an idea floating around that because these gloves are so big, they're bigger compared to what happens in mixed martial arts. You use
Mm-hmm.
smaller gloves. In mixed martial arts, if you get hit cleanly by a good puncher, you get knocked out, and that's your body's natural defense to getting hit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in boxing, there's an argument that the gloves keep you from feeling the full force, and instead you get hit with a certain percentage less of that force and just sustain that over time, and that's what causes
Mm-hmm.
the brain injuries that we're seeing. I don't know if there's actually any science behind that. It sounds like a reasonable idea. So I'm interested in people coming up with uh, scientifically valid data points on that, because you would still have boxing. It would still be look the same. The only thing I think you would see is you would see more stop it. You would see more knockouts, and I don't know. You want to see more knockout? You want to see more violent knockouts? I don't know if maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I don't know if there is an answer,
Yeah.
but I do know that boxing is dangerous, and I think that that's something to consider whenever I or you or anybody out there goes on to social media to talk noise to people that go into this ring for our entertainment and do this thing for themselves too. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just as if there's also an idea out there that, well, if we didn't watch boxing, people wouldn't fight. That's not true. There's people fighting all over the place, everywhere. some people, this is what they like to do, right? I mean,
Well, I think
this is their thing that they do, that
my
they're good at.
opinion is that we can't completely bubble wrap every single thing in society.
Right.
So like if I as a consumer am if I'm going to withdraw from everything that might ever cause somebody harm or death, that means not only will I not be watching boxing, I won't be watching sports at all.
You're not gonna eat tuna.
I'm not gonna eat like, you know, crab or like, you know, like there's just stuff. I mean, just I couldn't even start to list
even
things.
like
I found
you're not gonna
some
use wood because those guys that work in the
I found some information. So CNN wrote an article when Patrick Day died and called. Well, I mean, the title's pretty mundane. Each year, 13 boxers on average die in the ring. So if you want to look it up yourself, or I'll send the link to Kelsey and you'll put it in the show notes. But I thought it had really interesting data and I thought it was fair. So that number to me seemed high. It was like 13 deaths a year. So in 2019, so far, there's been 4 deaths. And that seemed like a lot to me as a boxing fan that I don't recall in years past. But what I thought was the interesting data was that it says at its peak, there were 233 boxing-related deaths in the 1920s.
Okay.
While there were just 103 in the 2000s. So that to me, they're taking the average through the whole history of boxing. And that's a huge, like, difference. And then it talks about some of the stuff that we've already talked about. So I just wanted to point that out, that is a huge change. And what I would like to look up, which I haven't yet, so maybe you know this if you're watching and you can let us know. When it comes to just jobs in general, I'm not sure that boxing is the most dangerous job to have.
Yeah.
So I feel like it quickly, because of the type of work that the person does in boxing, that people are quick, and I get why, like, because we don't want people to be hurt, we don't want people to die, we're also all careful of, like, not walking down paths of, like, what do you want to call it? Like, I don't want to be an evil person that goes out there and starts supporting something that just shouldn't be supported.
Well, and you don't want to, like, get in a position of defending boxing, but after a tragedy. The truth is, Patrick Day that shouldn't have happened. But we don't know why it happens, and nobody really knows why it happens other than boxing exists.
Yeah.
But boxing is gonna exist, just like all those people that die every year going out to hunt crab. It's gonna exist. All these things are gonna exist, at least for now, I think, in our world. And so
I think they catch crab. I don't know if they hunt it.
They hunt them like animals. I don't know what they do, but I know that a lot of those people die every year. I'm saying that those things are gonna exist, and so you're not gonna wipe it out, even if you made it unlawful, which boxing has been unlawful before. They're going to find ways to do it, and there's going to be a lot of people there, and people are still, and you're actually going to end up more people. If you look at the 1920s, for example, you're going to have more people hurt because there's even less oversight when you're floating out into international waters and barges and stuff. It's still going to exist. It's why
that's why the reasoning behind whether or not, like, boxing should be legal or not, this can be considered, but it can't be, like, the whole point. Because we don't make things legal or illegal based on if they're going to happen or not. Murdering somebody, stealing, those kinds of things are illegal in the United States, but there are valid reasons for why they are. They still exist. So we can't
say... What does that have to do with this?
Well, because
But it's not the same thing. Murder and smoking weed is not the same thing. Like, that's what you're equating the...
No, you said that even if it was unlawful, then we would, like, people would still do it. But that's not a reason for making something legal or illegal, because somebody will still do it. Okay. That was my only point.
I'm well aware of this point you make often. I think that it's black and white and yes or no, instead of dealing with the reality.
No, mine's not black and white.
It is with a situation like boxing. It is. You're comparing boxing to murder.
Are you even hearing what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm hearing what you're saying.
But I also said stealing and speeding. I just brought up 3 things that are illegal but still exist even while they're illegal. My point is that it's more nuanced. You can't say boxing where it's not going to be unlawful illegal because it'll still happen.
But nuancy implies that the idea that it's going to happen and it's not murder, it's not this thing that obviously should be legal. Nuancy implies that it happening is still going to factor into the overall equation.
Yeah, that's fine. It just can't be me saying it's not black and white. It can't be like the primary reason of like we just brush it to the side and say, oh, okay, this is legal. All of this leads me to another thought in my head that I've been thinking about, which is just like I feel like sometimes people ask the question, well, is it okay to be a fan of boxing, to like boxing, to support boxing? And I think that this is a topic for a whole nother show. But it is something that like I think about, and I've been thinking a lot about the definition of violence because I feel like I hear people use that word and just it's automatically wrong. And I don't think violence is automatically wrong, is what I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
But that's for another show. And if you subscribe to Real Talk with Kelsey and Rachel, you'll know when that show comes.
It's already actually sort of already existed here when we talked about whether boxing was intrinsically evil or not.
But
that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
And we didn't call it intrinsically evil. Somebody else did, and we responded to that.
But now I have different thoughts and more thoughts.
Interesting.
More because involving the word violence, I think, is in particular.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for watching our show.